Cool. Looks like there's a lot of people here. This is fun.
Yeah, so I was just going to introduce myself, talk a little bit about this fairy tale thing, and give you a chance to introduce yourself as well. Okay. So, yes, my name is Michelle Ann, and I call myself a fairy tale activator. Um, I am a former mental health therapist that has navigated a really accelerated and rapid spiritual awakening and ascension timeline. And I went through a period of time in my life where I just really surrendered to my intuition and to my feminine self, for healing and for my own process. And in that time, one day I felt guided to go to a webinar. It was a class, it was a gathering, really, a group of women. And the leader of this, I didn't know her too well. She's kind of eccentric. And we started receiving something called these fairy tale energies. And I was very open at this point, energetically. I'd been cultivating my own healing gifts, really kind of understanding who I was as a healer and as a guide, and going deep within myself to do that. And on this call, she told us about the fairy tale, and being very open-minded, I actually shut down at this. Was my first reaction. And I thought, I'm pretty open, but even this is a little too much for me. That was my honest reaction when I heard this. And so she said something, she channeled some information about the fairy tale, and then we received these fairy tale energies. She called them templates, and that's another conversation for another day if you want a definition of what a template is. But they came in, and after that, I began to have some really amazing and powerful experiences that I didn't have quite an explanation for. And what I began to feel was this energy. I began to feel this energy around the fairy tale. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about this later, but I began to follow it and follow this energy and listen to this energy within myself first, just as an experiment to see what would happen. And literally, I've stepped into entire fairy tale life. That's the gist of it. And so that's a little bit about my story and a little bit about me. And the main piece of what I do is I provide energetic activations. I guide and facilitate inner work transformations, really to support you in having the right energy to create the life of your dreams. And so that's a bit of background on what I do. And my business partner, John Muller, is an incredible man that I'm privileged to know and privileged to work with. And I would love for you guys to get to know him and to hear his story.
Cool. Thank you everyone for being here. It's so nice to hang out with you guys on this Wednesday night. So I guess I'm curious, like, why everyone is here. So you don't have to answer like directly to me, but I'm just trying to get a sense of like, why is everyone here? Probably you're here because you want a more magical life, I would say. You want a better life, not that it's bad, but you want better, more magic. And as Michelle says, a fairy tale is a unique note of prosperity, right? And so that's always fun too. I'll just tell you my story real quick. Hopefully it relates to you. So when I was 25, I moved into a Buddhist temple and I lived there for 5 years. I think everyone has done that, right? So everyone kind of relate to that. Just kidding. But no, I came from a very like ordinary background, really. My parents were middle class, nothing special. They didn't really give me many spiritual values. We didn't have anything explicitly spiritual happening in my life, really. They didn't do anything that bad, and they didn't do anything that great. I mean, they gave me one really good thing when I was young. When we went to church, they told me, they're like, we don't believe everything this guy is saying, but we like going anyway because, we like the community. And so it put a seed in my mind early on that I could question what I was learning, and I didn't have to believe everything that I heard. And that gift helped me in all through my years of psychology. I was always like, because I took psychology classes in college. I have a degree in psychology, and I always like took everything with like, maybe this is true, maybe it's not true. There's a good thing within this. There's some practical benefit, but maybe it's not fully true. And this is how I measured everything I learned in psychology. And for me, when I went to a Buddhist temple, this is where, or when I found Buddhism, is when I was like, oh, somebody finally got it right, right? So for me, that's what resonated for me. But yeah, basically, I just at some point I just followed that trail and just went deep with meditation, learned how to teach and guide meditations, and that's something that I'd love to do, is to guide myself in meditation and to guide other people in meditation. And I think that's the key, for me, for deep shifts. But the other key is like energy transmission and blessings, and I think that's maybe what Michelle plans on doing tonight. But yeah, I just think like the cool thing about life is that there's so many possibilities. There's like infinite possibilities for life. So you're all here because you believe in something better, or you believe in something higher. Like no matter where you're at, you believe in something a little bit bigger, better, more magical than what you're experiencing right now. And it's possible for you. Even just like whatever next level that is, it's possible. And this belief's so important. This belief is faith. And this belief can take you there, right? We all need this. So I just love that we all have that. And I believe that, yeah, tonight we'll maybe do something. We'll work with that somehow to get us all to the next level. And I know Michelle has a lot in store for how we're actually going to take those steps. But please always do yourself the favor to always remember that belief as often as you can. Every day, every night, throughout the day, just remember that belief in higher possibilities. That belief will take you there. There's really, literally no way to get there without that belief. You'll never get to better places in your life without a belief that it exists. That belief opens your mind to receiving something better. Okay, so if you get anything from tonight, please get that, and let's throw away anything that's blocking that belief. Yeah, Michelle, I'd love to hear what kind of plans you have to take us to that next level.
Whew, there's so much here. You guys are going to receive so incredibly much tonight. Like I said, and we've had waves of people coming in. We're going to first, I'm going to tell you guys a little bit about myself, and then my personal background with this whole fairy tale thing, and how I've dedicated my life and my professional career to this idea of publicly embodying a fairy tale, which is it's been an interesting journey. And what we're going to do is we're actually going to give you what I have been gifted from the divine as the fairy tale birthright. The fairy tale birthright. And what the fairy tale birthright is it's a prayer. It's a holy divine prayer. And we're all going to say it together. I'm going to leave it in the chat, I believe. And then we'll all kind of be able to recite it and kind of say it together. And only do that if you feel comfortable. But for me, this prayer has been shown to be holy. It's been shown to be pure. In order to access the fairy tale, we've got to have high standards for our behavior and for our integrity. And so it's not something that's kind of given to everybody. It's like we have to kind of step into it, right? And so then we're going to do a bit of a prosperity activation. So they do that. And then at the very end, we're going to talk about some project that John and I have been working on. We'd love to share with you. And yeah, we're so excited to have you guys here today. We're grateful. We're just joyful to have you here. And I'm just wondering, John, if you have anything else that you want to say, because otherwise I think that we're probably ready to step into the fairy tale. Okay. So I started to share with you guys a little bit about the story of the fairy tale. And I will share that shortly after it came in, I received a channeled message, and it was very vivid, very clear about the fairy tale and what happens. What happens to the fairy tale? What's the history of the fairy tale? What's the story of the fairy tale? And what the revelation that I had and that was shown to me is that the fairy tale is actually, it's a part of humanity. It's a part of human history. And it's something that's been lost. It's something that's been lost from human history. And it has been lost for a long time. And it has now been returned. And now people are here actually receiving and stepping into it. And so the biggest thing that I want to indicate to you guys is that the fairy tale is, it's a note of prosperity. So it seems like a really ethereal thing, but let's just ground it a little bit more. It's a note of prosperity. It's a note of prosperity. It's prosperity with a certain vibe to it. And it has real fruits. When John and I came together, we were guided to a home with a magical address that has these kind of interesting fairy tale qualities about it, that has like kind of a cute character, and it happened to be half a mile away from a castle. From a castle. And it's just profound, the power of the symphony. And we didn't know that. Like, we were just guided to that, right? So there's power here to the magic. And just a little bit about my own story. And I think one of the reasons that the divine selected me to represent this is that I didn't believe in fairy tales. I didn't believe in them. I didn't think that they were possible. I didn't think, I was such a very rationally minded person. And so to have these experiences, it profoundly changed me in a deep way. And my prayer is that in the best possible way, that this fairy tale changes you in a profound and powerful and beautiful way. And so that's the history of the fairy tale. And I just want to get a show of hands here. Who here is interested in having your own fairy tale? How is the sound? How is it sounding? Yeah. Yeah. I see thumbs. I see smiles. I love it. Okay. No, we're so, Jennifer says, my hand is up. Okay, beautiful. And we just, I just want you guys to know, like, this is truly a blessing, and I can't wait. I can't wait for you guys to receive it. Everyone's going to have your own experience of the fairy tale. Everyone's going to have, it's going to manifest for you in a way that's exactly aligned to you, to your soul signature, to your soul's blueprint. And it's a glorious unfolding if you allow it. But you've got to trust, and you've got to surrender to your own personal prosperity plan. We'll talk about that a little bit in the prosperity activation part of this. But let's go ahead and I've just started writing this in the chat. And I said the intention is we're going to write it in the chat. And I do have to translate it from my phone. So just give me 1 second.
I think it'd be useful for everyone to take a minute to kind of meditate on an intention, right? If you kind of take an intention and mount it to what we're about to do, and let that intention kind of drive the rest of this class, then you'll be creating it. You'll be creating that intention, right? So what is the intention that you have for your fairy tale? Let's all take a moment to just imagine a newer, better life, a fairy tale life. Whatever that next level of magic and prosperity is for you. Just take a moment to imagine it and experience it. By imagining it, you're practicing receiving it. So now we can meditate on the intention. Create the intention in your mind to receive this through the rest of the class. So the rest of this class is like a vehicle, and your intention is like the driver. So my intention on being in this class is to create this fairy tale for myself. We can think, my intention for being on this class is to create my fairy tale. So an intention is kind of like an arrow. This is like a prayer, it's an arrow, and we have to release it. So we take aim. My intention on being on this class is to create a fairy tale. And now you have to release this arrow and let go. Allow it to come to you.
That's beautiful. Thank you, John. So what we're going to do is we're going to just say this. We're going to say this together. We're going to say this prayer together. And it's in the chat. If you guys want to take a peek at it, go for it. And a couple things I want you to know. This is a holy gift. This thing is really pure. It's very, very, very pure. Level of ethical and moral integrity. And so if you take this call, to step into your fairy tale, you will, you'll be also taking a call to really live a life, of ethical and moral integrity. And this is a beautiful thing. We need people on the planet that are committed to a path of ethical and moral integrity. And I want you guys to know as well, before we say this, that it's something, if we want it to and we desire it to, it can bless our entire life. That we can have a fairy tale business partner, we can have a fairy tale home, we can have a fairy tale career. Like it can bless every area of our life if we so desire. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and just get started with this prayer. And we'll say it all together. If you want to unmute yourself, feel free. There's something really fun, I think, about a group vibe. If you don't want to, that's okay too, but we'd love to have you. And so I'm going to go ahead and guide it, but you can say it right along with me. Today I claim my right to my birthright, my divine inheritance of a happily ever after, an exquisite fairy tale tailored just for me. I accept this holy gift from the divine with an open and receptive heart. Sometime after I say this or read this out loud in perfect divine timing, the energetic signature of my happily ever after will reveal itself to me and to my life. When it arrives, I understand that following this signature's intuitive nudges will guide me toward my personal fairy tale, handcrafted by God, unique to my soul's imprint. My fairy tale is unique to me and nobody else. I understand that this fairy tale blesses my entire life if I allow it. A fairy tale relationship, fairy tale career, friendships, business partners, etc. I understand that this gift is one of unconditional love from the divine itself. I now begin my personal story of happily ever after. Okay. So as you guys are kind of letting that settle in. I want to train you guys in fairy tale vision. I want you guys to have eyes for this, right? Because now that you've got the blessing, I want you guys to have eyes for how to see it and how to work with it. All right. So what's going to happen is that when this energetic signature kind of reveals itself to you, depending on your temperament and how you are, it's going to be subtle. It's going to be absolutely subtle how it comes through. Charity says, I received that. Emily says, thank you, beautiful. Charity says, lovely. Yeah, let me know how you guys experience that. Bruno says, strong, very strong experience. Let me know in the chat how you guys experience that. We're going to get through everything here. We've got time. Melissa says, so powerful and beautiful. Yeah. And so, yeah, Rocio says, amazing. Thank you. Yeah. And so, you guys, Wendy says third eye activation. Beautiful. And so depending on how you see energy, how you feel energy, Sakina says beautiful, how you experience energy, the signature of this is going to present to you in your way, right? So it might be chills. It might be, I'm highly psychic. So for me, it was a really specific note, right? But you're going to know, and that's kind of the thing I want you to know, is that you're going to know. You're going to know. You're going to absolutely know. And then what you do is you sit in it. You sit in it for a few minutes at first. Oh, this is my fairy tale. Cool. I'm going to just hold it in my aura for a few minutes. Yeah. Yeah. And you just sit there for just a couple minutes, holding this energy of the fairy tale, holding that note. And then you might notice that maybe you go to the store and maybe you just notice fairy tale items at the store and you didn't notice these things before. And these things just kind of jump out at you. That's your fairy tale talking to you. That's the communication link between you and your fairy tale is open. And so you just notice that. Without attachment, it's like, we just noticed. Okay, that's curious. How fun. And then you might notice that you have fairy tale experiences where you go out and really magical things begin to happen. You're like, wait a second, I feel like a fairy tale. And you just notice. And then maybe you go on a fairy tale date or a fairy tale vacation. Or you see something that comes your way and you're like, whoa, right? But it's going to be your notes. It's going to be your notes of the fairy tale, and you just keep allowing it. The key is we just try not to block it as best we can, right? And our ego will try to block it because our ego thinks that life can't be that good. Life can't be that amazing. There must be something that's off here, right? And so I'm not saying it's perfect. And part of a fairy tale, Lucia says, I can feel the magic. And, part of a fairy tale is light and shadow integration. It's about doing our inner work. It's about meeting the darkness so that we can embody more and more light, right? It's not about being immature. It's not about being rescued. But it's about really stepping into the fullest potential that we have available for us in this life, right? So let's, everybody got that. You guys have any questions about fairy tale vision? It's kind of a quick primer, and you're gonna get a feel for it as you go. The more mystical you are, it might be a little bit easier. I really want to hear feedback from people that maybe aren't naturally maybe as mystical, how you guys experience this as well. So any questions? And feel free to just unmute and ask. And if John, if you want to add anything as well.
Yeah, I'd like to add a couple of things. So for me, some of what I'm experiencing is, this is something I've practiced for a long time, giving ourselves permission to have a pure experience of the world. Giving ourselves permission to step into a pure experience. Right? It's just an interesting question. Like, how much is our mind creating our experience? How much is your mind creating your experience? And the answer is a lot. You could even say 100%, actually, is the best answer. It's 100%, right? So like, is your mind creating a positive or a negative experience for you? And within this realm of like, so a lot of us, probably the people on this call, like a lot of people who, especially people who are like been practicing things for a little while, the negative's great, right? The negative gives us a place to work. When negative things come up, you actually have something to work with now. And I do recommend taking time to retreat. When Michelle was doing this, I saw an image of a fox. And so for me, that like the fox medicine in Native American culture is like hiding out and doing like in a cave and like doing retreat, right? Stepping back like a fox does and just like staying somewhere quiet and doing the inner work. This is important. If you know me, I spent 5 weeks in solitude in complete silence with no talking or eye contact to anyone, which is more than most people do. And I did a lot more than that too. That was just one retreat. But yes, and I had the most profound experience of my life, during this retreat. So giving yourself permission to unplug, at least like half a day, a couple of days, give yourself that permission. You're not going to hurt anyone. If there's something is important in your life, it's not going to disappear after 3 days of unplugging. My teacher had to really tell people this. He's like, you can turn your phone off and you can not check your emails all weekend. Your marriage isn't going to disappear if you do this, right? He would tell people that came on retreat, and we have to believe it. We have to believe that we can unplug and that our life isn't going to fall apart. In fact, it's going to get better. So that's what I would say about the negative stuff. Like, we need to work with it, but a lot of us on this call, our main thing is neutrality. Tell me if you agree. We spend too much time in neutrality. Is everyone agreeing with that? Yeah. Neutrality is not a good state to be in. Neutrality is a breeding ground for ignorance, actually. Neutrality is a breeding ground for mistaken views, right? If you want to be, clear with sharp wisdom, we eventually have to eliminate all neutrality. Neutrality is a trap. Neutrality feels like a comfortable place. It is a complete trap, okay? And positivity as well needs to make sure that it's authentic positivity, not fake positivity. Not positivity in kind of imposed upon negativity, right? I have something negative, let me pretend that it's positive. And that's where you get people who are like so conflicted inside, like one little thing and they'll like snap. Is because they're pretending to be positive and they're not even looking at the negative. So don't do that. But in my experience, passive aggressive could be. So the antidote here is to give yourself permission to step into a pure version of reality. And your mind can create this through your imagination, right? So if you give yourself permission to see, as Michelle is saying, a fairy tale, what would that be like to go to the store and it's like a fairy tale? What would it be like to make yourself breakfast and coffee and it feels like a fairy tale? What would that be like to go to bed at night and it feels like a fairy tale, right? Or to read your favorite book and it's a fairy tale. Or to do your work on the computer and it feels like a fairy tale. And you're with clients and it's a fairy tale. It's a sales call and it's a fairy tale. And everything you do feels like a fairy tale. Can you get into that? Will you allow your mind to create that for you? It's accessible through our imagination. The world is subjective. There is nothing besides subjective experience. If you want proof of this, ask yourself this question: how many of me are there right now? I can't see how many people are on this call, but let's just say there's 20 people here. That means there's 20 different versions of me. And who's right? You may think that I'm right, but like I just have my own version and it changes many times a day, right? How many versions are there of you? How many versions have there been of you today? 10, 20, 30? There's the confident you, the happy you, the sad you, the depressed you, the neurotic you, the fearful you, the abundant you. These are all just versions based on our own imagination. Your mind creates all of that, and it creates me, right? So we can create things with our mind on purpose. Once we know that everything's subjective, we can decide to create positive things only that are in line with our spiritual growth. So here, I want to encourage everyone to give yourself permission to step into a fairy tale in your mind. That means, how can you allow yourself to have pure experiences of each thing in your life? Pure, positive, magical, abundant, prosperous. It's not far away. It's not far away. It's a few mental shifts away. And this is a practice that must be practiced all the time. Here's an interesting thought. Whatever negative or neurotic versions of ourselves we have, and whatever like negativity we think is in our life, how much of that is mentally created? We might feel like, oh, fairy tale, whatever, this sounds fine. I'm me. Okay, but how much of that is mentally created? Yeah, all the negative stuff, the neutral stuff is all equally imagination. There's nothing there. there's nothing there. It's purely imagined. And so you can think, why not just imagine the positive way that I want life to be? Why don't I just imagine that I'm the best version of myself that I could be? Why don't I just imagine that things are going to go my way today? Why don't I just imagine that the best life is coming to me, or that it's already here? You know, a simple practice we do in Buddhism is imagine that your food and drink is nectar. Imagine that your food and drink is medicine nectar, life nectar, and wisdom nectar. The medicine nectar prevents sickness. The life nectar prevents death. And the wisdom nectar destroys negative states of mind. What if every time you ate and drank, you were receiving nectar? Okay. So this is just my little thing I wanted to add here, which I find is a very, very helpful way of thinking. Does everyone resonate with this? Did everyone connect with this a little bit? You're welcome, Jennifer. Yeah, you can change everything just by changing how you see it, because there's nothing there anyway. Okay. So the thing that I would think would be helpful to go into at least soon, maybe next, is I got another image when you were doing this practice, Michelle, of the key, right? Michelle and I talk about a key and a lock sometimes, like a heart-shaped lock with a key, but the key was just sitting there. It wasn't engaged. And so what's the next step, I believe, is like action. We have to turn the key. We have to turn, if you want to unlock the fairy tale, you have to turn the key, right? So Michelle, can you talk about, I don't know if you're ready to talk about that yet, but I think that would be.
Yeah, what we can do is we can talk about that now. So we can talk about Fruit of the Fairy Tale Spirit, which is all about turning the key. Yeah, it's about masculine energy, masculine healing. I can give a little bit of a preface from my own experience and the experience of a lot of the people that we've worked with, which is that one of the most common things that happens is that people will do a profound amount of healing in their feminine energy, which involves a lot of meditation and quiet and being in quiet space and sitting and healing and there's nothing, and being in your intuition, and there's nothing wrong with this. In fact, it's an extremely important part of our process and of our awakening, and it's something that we can't skip. We can't skip this part. We can't skip this part, right? We can't skip meditating. We can't skip healing. We can't skip learning how to be present. But there comes a time where it's time to step into action, and it's time to take action in our lives. And what happens for a lot of people is that they begin to step into action in their lives, and that action is more challenging than they thought. And that action feels maybe more uncomfortable than they thought it did. And that action feels stagnant and stuck because they're not used to moving, right? And we can kind of get stuck in this like like a swamp, of like feminine energy. It's kind of unstructured without much there, right? I'm not talking about ever, reverting back to maybe a toxic version of masculinity, or something that maybe we did in a past version of ourselves, where we used masculine energy in a way that harmed us or that wasn't right for us, or any ways that we played out old toxic patterns. But what happens is that we begin to step into this masculine energy, and we often have an aversion to it. We have this inability to really take action in our lives the way that we'd like. And we need masculine medicine. We need masculine medicine in our lives to be able to really bring in prosperity, to bring in the fruits of our fairy tale, because we create the fairy tale through being, and then we've got to go out and we've got to get that fruit. So John, is there anything that you want to add around masculinity and masculine medicine, and just taking action in our masculine?
Sure. Yeah, I love what you said about, first we do it in the feminine, and then we have to transition to purifying our masculine side. And I know from, whatever we do, like I've been working with clients and myself for a long time, and this is where a lot of people get stuck. This is where a lot of spiritual people get stuck, is that they don't want to take action. They don't want to, and it's because they doubt their masculine side. They doubt their masculine side. They don't have faith in it. They don't trust it. And this is a good way to tell, how do you feel about other people's masculine side? How do you feel about men in your life? Do you recoil from men? Do you think men are scary and bad? Do you think anytime man shows his strength or power, do you think, and you get frightened and you want to turn away? This is a sign that we also feel the same about our own masculine side. Okay. And this is, I know how this feels. I've been there for, it hasn't been that long for me, that I've adjusted a lot here. And we need to start to learn to trust masculinity in general, not just our own, but other people's masculinity. Spot on. Yeah. Thank you, Trisha. This is a huge topic. Look, it wasn't that long ago. Like, I had a guy friend I went into business with, and he turned out to be a real jerk, right? But like, I remember having this thing where it's like, trusting a masculine person. And I was so used to living at this temple, and we're all like in our feminine side, right? And it was so spiritual, and no one ever did anything to hurt anyone. And then I went out into like the real world, and suddenly people like take advantage of my sensitivity and my feminine side, and they like turn it to their own advantage. And I'm like so surprised, and it hurt. It took a while to like really learn to trust it, but I needed to, in order to trust myself. This is about trusting ourselves, and we project outwards in the same way that we project inwards. So if you're projecting outwards that masculine things are scary and bad, you're projecting inwards that your own masculinity is scary and bad, right? And then we don't give ourselves permission to step into it and use it. So when Michelle is saying we need more masculine medicine in our life, she means our own. She means our own masculine side. This is our own masculine structure, right? The ability to have a structure is masculine. Thank you, Melissa. Structure, right? The ability to like move things forward with some action, move things forward with action rather than waiting for it to happen for me. I'm going to move it forward myself with some action, right? Turning that key. This is a part of ourself that we have, and we just need to learn to trust it. Okay. Yeah. Nice.
More powerful comments that I'm seeing. Sakina says, I trust my masculine to help me survive, but has been let down by the masculine and others, especially by the men in my life. Yeah. And I think what happens for a lot of people is they initially get out of survival mode by really tapping into their feminine. And then they've got to go through this, at times it can be almost an intense process for some people, going into the masculine and then having to kind of purge out these different attempts of the body trying to go back into survival mode. It's like we have to rebalance and recalibrate the whole system. in order to be able to function at this new level. Emily says, it's also interesting being a woman openly embodying masculine. It can easily be shamed, even by other women. That's a very powerful insight.
I'd like to comment on this one real quick, Emily. Is that okay? So what would I say about this? Yeah, so part of the masculine side is not as nice and friendly sometimes, right? The feminine is so attractive, it pulls things in. Masculine side is active, it kind of moves things out. Just masculine sides are just not as attractive as the feminine sides, right? And it also can have this effect of being polarizing, right? When we step into our power, generally it might be a power thing. When we step into our power, a lot of times people are going to try to pull us down. And we need to be willing to polarize people and have them kind of divide into camps where some people love us and some people don't like us. That's something we need to be willing to do. And it's kind of trusting our own power. And I find that the only part of me that has a problem with this is my feminine side. You know? And so can I take action and like be okay? Like that's part of the masculine thing I've noticed in myself is like I'll do things, I'll step up and do things, and then I get criticized. And then I'll like shrink back down into my, I'll just be for a little while. That's like part of me not trusting myself. That's it. It's a good step in the right direction. It's a good step in the right direction. And now, I don't know if you guys see the way I post on Facebook, but like I get some things thrown at me sometimes. You know, if people could throw pies, I'd have some pies on me. And my mom gave me a comment actually months ago. She's like, well, you're able to handle an immense amount of negativity extremely well. And I wasn't like that though. I would like freak out. I'd feel bad. I would take posts down. This is just on social media, but like generally part of the masculine side is being willing to take criticism. Think of like an alpha male in a group of monkeys. Whoever steps up as the alpha is now going to get challenged by everybody else. That's kind of what's happening here. When you step up in your masculine side, it's also a power thing too. It's not just masculine, it's power. When you get noticed, people are going to have reactions both towards you. That happens. They're just maybe not as loud. Then the negative ones come too. We have to be willing to take that and just realize it's not personal. People are just doing their own thing. They're like monkeys challenging me for the seat of power. Great. It means I'm doing good. It's a sign that I'm doing the right thing. And it's something we start to become less sensitive to that, right? I don't feel hurt anymore when this happens. I don't have this like wounded, I'm not like protecting a wounded self, if that makes sense. Okay. So, yeah, how to release that sensitivity, I don't know, but I don't give it as much credit anymore. That sensitive side no longer has more weight than the masculine side. I feel that they're equally important. And so I don't trust that wounded feminine sensitive voice now more than I trust my masculine side that can take action, because I know it helps. I hope that helps someone. Okay.
Yeah, that was profound, John. And I just want to make one more comment about the purification piece, because I think it's a really big piece, which is that it's really easy to kind of purify our feminine because we're just being. But what's really challenging for our egos as we step into action is that when you start to take action, now you start to mess up and you start to make mistakes. And then we've got to purify those mistakes, and we've got to be accountable for our integrity, right? The gaps in our integrity that made those mistakes in the first place, right? It's a whole different level of consciousness that we're being initiated into in our masculine. And quite frankly, it's understandable why on some level we avoid it, right? But if we want to be a whole person and we want to have a whole life and we want to be able to rise as a leader of light, we must repair our relationship to our masculine. It's a key. It's a key.
Just real quick on that point of being whole. I mentioned a minute ago about like trying to outsource the masculine side to somebody else. I know how it's been to think, well, maybe I'll just get like a business partner who does all the masculine side of the things, and I'll just be like the pure teacher who stays in my femininity. And everyone probably has their own versions. I've actually had this from the point of view of a man seeking a relationship, thinking, you know what, I don't really need to get really in touch with my feminine side. I'm just going to get a woman around who she'll do that, and I'll do the masculine side, right? And I'm just guessing that a lot of the people here, especially the women here, sometimes might feel that way about the masculine side, like, oh, you know, I'll just do the feminine thing, and I don't really need to be whole myself. Now I'll just outsource that, and I'll get somebody who's masculine to come in, and now we'll be balanced and complementary. The problem with that is it creates a need-based relationship where now you need them to feel whole. And that creates problems not just before that relationship comes to you, because it does. You'll feel very lonely until it does. It also, when you even have that relationship, you're still going to feel like you need it. And so you won't be able to keep a balanced mind in that relationship. If any kind of hint that that person might leave comes, you start to feel like you're going to have a big loss, because a whole part of you is going to be lost, right? Because you haven't taken the responsibility to be whole yet. Does that make sense? You've decided, oh, I'll just outsource that. Sorry, but you don't. You're not going to successfully outsource part of yourself. You have, if you want to have a spiritual life, let's just speak bluntly. If you want to have a spiritual life, you need to get in touch with and really embody both sides of yourself, masculine and feminine. Right? If you want to have an effective life in the world as an entrepreneur, you need to be able to embody both masculine and feminine. They're both equally important. They're equally important, and we don't get to outsource that part of ourselves. Codependency.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Amber says, currently understanding codependency and how it relates to this topic. Yeah. Yeah.
It's interesting how it relates, isn't it? It's sneaky. It's very sneaky how this is a version, maybe a higher version of codependency than normal, but it's still a version of codependency, isn't it? It creates an attachment. Yeah, if you can't feel whole without something, you're setting yourself up for immense pain, heartache, disappointment. It's better to feel whole. This shift, doing this part of it, is what changed everything for me. At one point in my life, I just thought, maybe I'm never going to have a partner. Maybe I'm never going to do this. Maybe I'll never have that. Maybe I won't. And I've actually fully accepted that I may never have that. And then that allowed me to embody my feminine side more, because I wasn't looking for it on the outside. Does that make sense? Once I realized that I may never get this on the outside, I became very comfortable with my feminine side and embodied it. And then met Michelle right after that. So I think that, if you want to manifest a great relationship, or if you want to manifest a great life, success, abundance, spiritual fulfillment, in all these cases, if we can accept that we may never receive the other half of ourself from the outside, and then you actually accept that you will have to embody it yourself on the inside, and you actually allow that to happen, that's going to change your entire life. Mm-hmm. But it comes from letting go of the search for it outside. Completely releasing searching for it outside yourself you'll never find it. You'll never, ever, ever. You might think you find it. You could spend your whole life thinking that you've had it, or having the thing that feels like it's it. But then sometime one of you leaves, or somebody dies, and now, you never actually had it within yourself. So it's deceptive. It's actually deceptive. You need to embody it yourself. Yeah, I promise you.
That's beautiful. Yeah, that was absolutely beautiful. And that in and of itself, I feel is just a prosperity activation. So what I'm feeling to do is I'm feeling to just step right into the channeled part of this, to the channeled prosperity activation. And how these work for me is I just tune into spirit, and I have the privilege of being able to transmit an energy, and it's light encoded, and you guys can just receive this energetic gift, this energetic blessing. So what I'm hearing is that this prosperity activation is going to support you to step into your fairy tale. I'm just going to put my hands out, and there's an energy that is flowing to the group. And if you're watching the replay, you are welcome to receive this as well. And it's going right to the heart. So you may feel this or not. And I just saw the words radiant heart activation. And then I just was shown a vision of a rainbow over my two hands. And just what this indicates is in the Fairy Tale Oracle, which is the Oracle deck that we have and that we use in one of our programs, the rainbow represents abundance. Now I'm feeling to just kind of symbolically gift this to each and every one of you. And in front of you, in front of each and every one of you, you may see a pot of gold. And you are welcome to just watch that pot of gold drop down into the earth right at your feet. And it's actually grounding itself, because we want to be really conscious of grounding our prosperity. It's grounding itself. And it's like a seed being planted for each and every one of you of prosperity. The energy is still flowing, so feel free to just receive it. Okay, so the activation is complete. Everything, you can just feel the energies and the codes just attuning to you at your own level, recalibrating your system to this new note of prosperity unique to you, aligned to you, aligned to your unique soul's blueprint, and to your fairy tale. Allowing that to just settle in. And at your own readiness, you can come back to this space and become really present with this room and with the community that we're in. And so how was that for you guys? How have things been so far in general? How are you guys loving this? What are maybe a couple nuggets that you guys are taking away from everything so far? We'd love to hear from you in the chat. Trisha says, wow. Jennifer says, overall energetic upgrade. Awesome. We're so happy to hold that space with you. Kira says, warmth, still radiating. Amazing. Literally the image of a painting you just did. How synchronistic. Sunny says, very great upgrade, like a meeting of our higher selves. Bruno says, I felt out of my comfort zone. Very energetic and deep. Amazing. Thank you so much for feeling safe to be out of your comfort zone with us. Melissa says, I feel like I'm up leveling big time. Amazing. She says, beautiful energy. Wendy says, heart opening and chills. Really tired and now energized. Trisha would like to share a little bit. I think that we have time for that. Trisha, go for it.
Just very quickly, the energy was so powerful that it actually began to move my body, and I was spinning counterclockwise, which means unwinding, and I felt like it was undoing some damage. And then as you talked about the heart radiating, it became very, very warm in my heart chakra, and my hands actually shook with the power of what you were describing. So it was a super powerful experience. Thank you so much for being the conduit for that. I appreciate you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Yeah, and everything that you guys have experienced is an experience that you allowed yourself to have as well, right? You allow yourself to have these experiences, and I just get to be the facilitator with you. And yeah, amazing. So amazing. Amazing to connect with you guys and to hear all of this incredible energy that you're receiving. And I just wanted to ask you, John, is there anything else that you want to add here? No? Okay, so I just want to ask you guys, how do you feel about taking just a few minutes for us to talk to you guys about a project that Jen and I have been working on behind the scenes, something that we've created that we'd love to share with you? Thumbs up, smiles. Yeah, I think we're good. Okay, cool. Yeah, I'd love to share this with you guys. So we have something that is really special in store for you. We're so happy to share it.